I saw a way to bring the best product to patients because I stand behind what my husband wants to do wholeheartedly. I think it is an amazing mission and I'm here for it enough that I'm running it all. And I saw a way to improve that. And so once I saw the path forward, I couldn't stop. It was like, how do I bring this home? And I want to bring it home. I actually paid for in-flight internet so that I could work on it on my flight from Vegas to Tulsa. I was like, I texted my husband and I said, "Can I spend $8 on in-flight internet?" And he was like, "Of course, like go for it, whatever you need to do."
Yeah.
And I built that entire flight. All I did was just build on trust driven care to make sure that when I got home, as quickly as I could roll this out to our patients, that it would be available.
That's awesome. And you might need an intervention soon. So,
I know.
yeah. Why don't you send me like a list of your kids' birthdays and your anniversary and stuff, and I'll just pause your account during those periods so you can't be distracted by it.
My husband would appreciate that. He'd catch me at my computer. I was like, "I promise I'm not working." He's like, "Yes, you are. I can see that you've got it all open."
What were some of the things you wanted to solve, like some of the systems? So those people listening, I don't want to necessarily cover like the technical of where to click and what button to push and stuff, but really like what were you trying to solve? Like I remember one of them was an intake form.
Yes. So what we found is that we sent out our intake paperwork before I ever even put somebody on the schedule. We have a Google review that they gave us 4 stars because that was the one thing that they didn't like, which I understand. But what we found is that if somebody is willing to put the time in to fill the intake paperwork out before they're ever even put on our schedule, they're 9 times out of 10, they're going to show up. And so we dropped our no-show rate down to basically nothing just from changing this one thing.
So if
And
they do the paperwork, they will show up for the appointment.
yes, is
But
what
sometimes those that don't fill out the paperwork, they may no show, but they were not committed from the start.
right.
Okay.
And so before what I was doing is I had built intake paperwork in Adobe. I would email it to the patient or I would send it to them. They would fill it out. They would send it back to me. I'd have to download it to my Dropbox and then I'd have to upload it to their patient file. And so there was a couple of extra steps that meant that the patient was delayed care somewhere along the way. I would either look in Adobe and go, "Oh, I've got, 4 intake paperworks that have been completed. I need to bring all them over." And then I'd get 1 done or I'd get 2 done, but then the other 2 patients weren't addressed. And so I wanted to make sure that one, that was happening smoothly. And then I love the idea that once they finished the paperwork, they were just sent a link to schedule themselves. So then they didn't have to wait on me to call and schedule them. Another thing that I was really upset about was dropping referrals. So we would get a referral from a preferred therapist or a preferred location. We do a lot of bariatric surgery evals for one of the hospitals in town. And I would hate that I'd go back through my emails and I would find a referral that I had missed from 2 weeks ago. Like, how did I miss this? I've been checking my emails and, it just gets bogged down in there. I clicked it, opened it, and then forgot about it. And so being able to have a system set up so that the patient goes in, I know how many times I've contacted them. I know that the referral's been received, who it came from. So now I can track who our preferred providers are. And then the QR codes that you can create. And so now my to-do list for next week is to print out. I have 3 preferred providers. They're going to get a QR code and an edible arrangement. And I'm going to bring it in and say, "We love working with your patients. Thank you so much for referring to us. Here's your own QR code so that your patients get immediate care." And
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit, like, because I think people, that's a common pain point that gets overlooked.
Mhm.
I think everybody, when they refer someone, especially in the medical field, they don't need the edible arrangement, although it's nice for the staff, right? They don't need a thank you. They don't need money. What they really truly want when they refer a patient, which is what I want, what I'm going to guess you want, I just want to know that patient's going to be taken care of really well, right? And I don't know if you've had this experience. I've referred people for MRIs. I've referred people to orthopedic surgeons, and I find out on the back end they got treated like crap. They got forgotten. They got, they were treated rudely. I feel so bad that I was the person that directed them there.
Right.
And I don't ever want to do that. And so talk about the QR code and what it triggers off in your office when it gets scanned at the referring office.
So when the referring provider says, hey, I've got the psychiatrist, they can provide the QR code to them. And on it, it's printed with the clinic's name, and we would love to have you. Not our clinic's name. It has the referring provider's clinic's name.
Right. So if ADC Family Physicians, we'd love to have you as a patient.
Yes. And so they scan the QR code. They immediately get a message that has that intake paperwork. And so then they can start filling it in. And then I get a notification that I need to give them a call. And so before they even, finish anything, or if they get that message that they have the intake paperwork, then I can call and say, hey, I'm so excited. We love working with you. This is our process. We're a small clinic. It's just a couple providers. This is why I do it this way. I found that patients, once I explain like, hey, it dropped our no-show rate off. And they're like, oh, of course. Like, I would absolutely love to fill out my paperwork first. And then we get them scheduled, and I'm able to provide a more concierge system for those patients that we're regularly receiving referrals from.
Yeah. And how quick are you guys able to connect with them?
Within 24 hours.
For that phone call?
Yes. And I try to keep it. And the only reason, I think it should be shorter, but because I'm only part-time with all of the other children and things we have, that's what I'm able to offer at this time. My ideal would be that as soon as they scan it, that they would get a call within a couple of minutes.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
Ideal.
Yeah.
We're working towards it. It's growth.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. Every listener to this podcast is probably thinking, I have every system in my practice perfectly, designed and running. So they're probably heavily judging you, Nicole. They're like, I can't believe she has one thing not working. No, everybody feels like we're nowhere near done, but
right.
Yeah. So during the event, we were doing a little section at the end of big takeaways, and you said something that just truly moved me. I was like, I almost started crying listening to you. And because you touched on something that I think goes like unmentioned to a lot of people.
Right.
And that was that you said you're now proud of the patient experience that you have, right?
Right.
And I think so many times we as providers, we start our office, we get busy, so we hire somebody and we hire another person and we're doing all this. And somewhere along the way, our system, the journey that patient goes through, especially on the first visit, is not really well defined, and it kind of falls off here and there, and we drop patients, we forget referrals, all these things, to a point where I don't know, maybe I'm the only person that's felt this, but I remember one time at like a cocktail party or Christmas party, someone was like, oh, this is Josh, and they were trying to refer me a patient, and I kept blowing them off like, oh, it's not a big deal, because deep down I was really worried that my staff and my office, we were going to drop the ball. That I was going to get this amazing referral from Mr. Smith, and he's going to find out 2 weeks later that his friend got forgotten or fell through the cracks or got treated rudely. And so I was like kind of resisting the growth, right? Resisting the referral, which is a crazy thing to think I would ever get in that situation. Like when I first opened, I'd be like, oh, I'll take every referral and I'll wow them. But you touched on that, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that feeling. I remember that, how that felt. Can you kind of talk about, what you felt in that time and what kind of struck you about you used the word proud, and I was like, God, that's apt.
Yeah. So I think the story, if I can do it justice, was that people would ask me what I do for a living because, I'm home with our kids. And I hemmed and hawed, I've got training in behavioral therapy and got a master's degree, and I would kind of ebb towards that. Like, oh, I used to work as a behavior analyst, and but I'm home now, and oh, what do you do? And I never wanted to tell people that I run our clinic from home. And a lot of it was that the service that I was providing, I was not impressed with. And I wouldn't want to be a patient in our clinic, because who wants to have an issue with medication and not get a call back for a day or two? who wants to, send an email and you just, am I ever going to hear back? And I wouldn't. And so I didn't want people knowing that we had a clinic because it wasn't something that I was even proud of. And after coming to the live event, seeing what it offered me as a patient, seeing what I learned and having that shift in mindset of like, we need to deliver a better product and this is how, I now feel proud to tell people we have a clinic, we have a private practice, this is what we offer, and we would love to have you. And this is what it would look like if you came to see us. And so being able to know for sure that they were going to receive that care. And it kind of goes to that. I might not be able to return the phone call for 24 hours, but now the patients get a message that explains it. So I missed the phone call. Hey, I work these days between these hours. Terribly sorry. We're part-time. I do check my messages and we'll try to get back to you even on my off day. And a lot of patients receive that very well. They're like, we understand you're not a full-time clinic and we're fine with that. And so now that patients have that full experience because of how I can automate things through trust-driven care, I want everybody to know that we have a clinic and that we're here and that we want patients and that we want your referrals because we're going to do a better job than any other clinic you're going to get told.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Trust Driven Insights, brought to you by Trust Driven Care. Imagine a world where all your patient communication is in one place, seamless, effortless, and on autopilot. That's the power of trust-driven care. If you're ready to streamline your practice, check out trustdrivencare.com and see what's possible. Trust-driven insights, real conversations, smarter care, stronger business.